Hi there and welcome back. In my part 1 I assembled the Beholder Lite Gimbal for the Phantom. I'm sure you all remember how we got this far, and we got the mechanical parts assembled. The next thing we were talking about and mentioning was the loose ends of the cables. And what nobody really mentioned was, back then, I didn't realize it yet. The cable from the pitch motor, which is this one, that cable I ended up threading through here along the arm, and this is why they came without the pieces on, because I threaded it through the hole in the center of the motor right there. Can you see that? It now comes out on the other side, and once it is out on the other side, I could put on the plastic holster or the plastic clip. And the last thing I did, taking it here and sticking it in on the right side up here. So that goes in like this. Orange, or yellow, orange, and black. Can you even see that there? I don't know. There it comes in. I don't think it shows right. Good. There you can tell it. Okay, backing back out. And now I have the other cable still here. It has not been attached yet. And I am going to grab from the little plastic bag that there was 2 of these things in here. So I'm grabbing the second one. It's really easy to do. Can you see it? Here's the one end has the big holes and the other end has the little holes. So, and on the top side of this is a row of little holes. That's what we're looking for. Then we're taking these, yellow, orange, and brown, and I'm lining them up here with the big holes. And you have to line them up. See, it has a little clip on the top side of that. So you line it up there and push it in with the clip up, and you keep pushing till it's all the way down and it's stuck. There it is. So I'm going to do the next 2 real quickly. Okay. This isn't coming together really right away. So we're putting them in here and there. Before I'm attaching it, I'm going to shorten this up a little bit. So I am going to wind this all up a bit, and right here on the table I put a little zip tie, except for it has escaped. So we're without zip tie at the moment. What I'm going to do is just plug it in on the other side. Again, I have the yellow cable to the left. So now everything is plugged in here. And next we're going to start talking about this. This is the power, because the next thing that needs to happen is power. Oh, before we do that, I also threaded the white cable. The white cable connects to the front part of the control board in here. And I threaded it between the sandwich and out on the back side and down through the hole right here. So you can see how it comes out there. And there it is. That is for the IMU. And here's the IMU. That thing is going to sit on top right here. I put a piece of double-sided tape, and it's going to sit with the white part facing back like that. So there, and I'm going to take the cable. And when you power everything up, if the blue light on the IMU does not come on, then you probably need to fiddle a little bit with the cables. That usually is what happens to me. There, now that is in, and you can see how, because it comes from behind and it's kind of looped a bit, it does not give drag on the camera. That's very, very important for this. Let's see how this works. I happen to have a 7.2 volt little 2-cell battery right here, so I'm going to plug it in to the JST cable. If you buy anything to power it, we've got a blue light and a red light, so we are in business. We're waiting. Oops, and it's on. And guess what? We have a working gimbal. So let's unplug this. We obviously are ready for this part. And the next part is gonna be installing it to a Phantom. Espresso, anyone? I love it. Couldn't make it through the day without a shot of espresso. On the Phantom, one of the corners has a cable that's already built in. Usually you cannot see it. I have already pulled on this. So what I'm going to do is, and before you open up a Phantom, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 screws. Do not unscrew the motors, by the way, because then you've got loose motors. That doesn't make any sense. I usually put a piece of tape because this top will go back many ways, but since you have the GPS on top, you want to make sure it's the right way, otherwise all of a sudden things does not behave the way you anticipate them to. So let's pop this open. Inside, this is the NASA. And you'll see this says F1 and F2. F1, I believe, is the pitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a little cable, a little servo extension cable, and stick it into F1, and then we're going to run it out the door, and you can probably see I've already done that. It's like the TV kitchen, you know, I already prepared this dinner before, but I'm just showing you how to stir it. Down on the side, I have glued, what I used was an extension to a female, and I've glued it onto the side here. I have both the F1 and F2, so I can do pitch and roll control. But today with this one, I'm only talking about pitch. F1, you run the cable through here, comes out here, so that we can stick it on the side, or you could run it straight to it. The next thing, we also want to be, by the way, always be careful. See, this is the radio antenna. And I have a Walkera QR350 sitting over here on the table that I'm going to show you guys in a couple of days, which, unlike the DJI, has 2 antennas, which is honestly really, really brilliant, because once we hang all this stuff underneath and you start flying, as you turn around in the air, if you manage to hide this antenna, all of a sudden you have an aircraft that does not or cannot see your radio. So having 2 antennas, 1 on each side, make a huge difference, and it's just simply a smart move. So I think Walkera did good on that, and they probably had some time to look at what was going on with DJI and flyaways and whatnot, and go, hey, listen, we know something smart. Anyway, so we have that. The other thing we're looking for, here's the NASA right down here. See that little red and gray cable right there? That is the power cable. It's pre-installed, and it comes out on the other side. So usually it sits right here, and you just have to tug on it and then pull it out. Once you have it out, you need to strip it. And remember, we were talking about this kit comes with a couple of extra cables. The one we need is the female one. I can't find the camera lens using my iPhone to record this. Here it is. That's the female one that the male one can go into. So what you need to do is solder the black to gray and the red to red right here. So solder those, put a little bit of shrink wrap around it, and now you have your power ready for your gimbal. If you want to make it a little nicer, you could also pull this cable inside and tuck these ones inside and solder it on the inside, so you just have a short little dongle sticking out. So now we have powered this. While we have this open, that is what it looks like. Be very careful with the cables up here for the compass and the GPS, because we don't want to mess any of those things up. So I'm going to put this down, and remember, I put a piece of tape here to remind me, I cut it through, I put a piece of tape to remind me what way this goes on. So we're done with that. I'm going to put it down, and I'm going to grab a Phantom that actually has legs on it. Here we go. And this is where this is going to go. To mount it, we have a piece of double-sided tape on top, and personally, I love installing stuff with double-sided tape. I don't like the screw that arrived too much, so instead I'm going to swap for a finger screw that's more easy to install. So I'm going to grab this, pull the top off it and take a look at that. Okay, to get this right, stick this one on here and make sure you can get to that screw hole, because obviously if you can't, this isn't going to work. So I'm going to put this down because I need more hands. Right there. Oh well, I think I know what the problem is. It turns out that my cleverly installed video transmitter is in the way. So this has now been tightened down. Here's my video transmitter. And in order for me to get this to sit right, we're going to grab the video transmitter and just for now move it out on the behind a little more. Now you can massage the tape down a little bit, and here it is. One of the things I really like here is, notice the clearance between my hand and the camera. That is the benefit of what James did in the design here. He bent this one upwards inside here to lift it up, and it actually got some clearance under the camera so that when you start it up, it's not going to hit the ground like some of the other gimbals I use. They constantly hit the ground. Now, this Phantom here, I've already pre-wired it, and I've been using a bunch of different gimbals lately for testing. So I actually made a plug with an adapter to a JST. So this kind of comes around a little bit. We're going to plug that in. Just go over here. Here's the JST cable. We're plugging that in right here. And the other cable we were going to plug in is the one for the gimbal, remember? This little one here. So I already put it down on the side. You can see it. Maybe. I'm going to try to turn this. Right here is where I have these, and the bottom one is the pitch control. So I'm going to grab the pitch control and make sure that the black cable goes to the black cable. Black is always ground right in there. Now I have the dongle hanging out here, and I'm going to make sure that black goes to ground and white goes to pitch. Now, when you look at your board, you will see they only use 2 of them. So I'm going to stick this in. Since I don't use the roll ever, I just leave roll alone. There. See? Now it's installed. We have a camera here. It's in business. And I'm going to move my coffee before anything happens. Now, my video is still connected to my flight camera on top because I'm not that comfortable with using the gimbal camera as the main flight camera. Simply because if you're flown way out and all of a sudden the gimbal acts up, you're looking straight down or you're looking at an angle, and it's really going to be really hard to fly at 1,000 yards distance. I usually use the Sippy Compact. They call it Sippy Compact. I get them from Hobby King. They are cheaper than what you get from DJI. So, and I have a radio here. Notice up on top of the radio I have a $4 digital cooking clock for the kitchen. I set it to 4, 5, 6 minutes, whatever I need, and before I take off I hit it with my thumb and it will start beeping when I have decided it's time I should start landing, and that is usually before the red light comes on. So next thing here, we're going to drop this thing into it. We're going to always turn on the radio first, throttle stick down, and plugging this in. So I always stuff the cable in this way here, and we're going to do like that. There. Shortly this should now balance up. There it is, and it is installed under the Phantom and it's ready to go. Oops, yeah, well, if you get too far, I'll run into the edge. You just can't go that far, so give it a second to straighten up. You'll see that sometimes if you're flying and you do a really violent move, See how now it's slowly straightening again. But if you do a really violent move and you run into it, you're going to upset the camera and you're going to end up with it like this, which is again a reason using your recording camera that you're pitching is not such a brilliant idea when it comes to flying. I'm not saying I don't do it, I'm just saying if you can get away with not looking through it and looking through a fixed camera that follows the movements of your aircraft, it's going to be easier when you fly. Now, 90% of my flying these days, I fly FPV, so I use a pair of Fat Sharks for that, and here is a long 12 decibel, I think it is, helical antenna from IB Crazy. I know, guy's name is IB Crazy. You can always Google him. He makes some great antennas. By turning my head, if I know I'm flying out this way, I can turn my head and I can point this antenna and it will go easily 1,500 yards out there with the signal from this one. What I've done here is the radio sits here and the dongle antenna, which is a clover leaf, hangs down here. Notice how I put it out this far so that for most of the time of this rotation it is not hidden. If it is closer to the camera, it can be hidden much more or longer. I saw a guy just last week. He actually put an extension cable on this so it hangs down to here, and when he takes off, it ends up hanging down here, which I'm starting to think is a really good idea, because having it hanging here means you've got 360 degrees access without any shadows. I just love how this camera is just doing its thing. On and on right here. So I'm going to put this down. I think you guys understand this. I've been puzzling a little bit with the pitch thing, and I'm going to have to ask James for some of the settings. So I'm going to put that in the text on my blog at fpvguy.com. I'm going to put the exact settings you have to set up on the gimbal. And James, I think you should make it a standard that all of these boards should ship with slew enabled. And if you don't already have it enabled, you'd just have to go and enable slew. And I checked, and for some reason on this board here, slew is not enabled. The other thing you have to do is go into the DJI Assistant, enable the gimbal controls, but set gain to 0, because when you move the stick, you don't want this movement of, you don't want the NASA to try to move your gimbal. You want to make 0 gain, so it does absolutely nothing to adjust or help this. Only what you sent through the NASA, what you sent through the radio comes through, goes to here. And I'm going to put that down, and for safety, since I'm not having my hand on it, I am going to unplug. There. Now, give you another look at that helical antenna if you haven't seen one. That gives me an enormous amount of boosting, and what I do is when I fly with it, I put it up here, and putting it on my head, by turning my head, I can now track the aircraft. Just leave it upwards a little bit, and you have a really solid video signal for way, way, way out there. The goggles I'm using here is the Fat Shark Attitudes. My preferred entry-level goggle is probably the Predators with one of their flight cameras. So this is unplugged, so it's not using power. And let's take one more look at my radio. I think I can turn it off at this point. Again, digital clock on top. It goes beep, 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 beep before you should be on the ground. If you don't do that, you can hurt yourself. And you also already know from the previous video that I like to pipe the NASA settings into my optical. Now on the back side, what I did was I abused an old screwdriver, got it in correctly, and I made a really long arm right here. That means when I fly, all I need to do, because I'm using the slew setting, slew means if you give it a little bit of gain this direction, it's going to start really slowly tilting down. And when I'm about happy, I just move it like a 1/4 inch back, and it stops. To get back up, I give it about 1/4 inch move the other direction. Camera starts pitching back up really slowly until I center the stick. I don't like the really short sticks that they're coming out with because it's such a noodling. I found out all I really need, I literally usually fly like this, and I just grab it right here with a couple of fingers, and you can see how much I'm moving my hand. That is all the movement it takes to operate a gimbal when you're flying with the slew setting on. It's just down very gently, because you don't want, when you're flying and you're doing video for a real estate agent or something, you don't want to be flying and then it goes doink. You want to come in and really slowly down to show the pool like that, or you're coming down to show the entrance, and you just kind of keep coming up really slowly to keep the house in picture. Really small moves, greasing the sticks as it's called, does the trick. So that's pretty much it. Now, while we have the video running, Ali Mashmao, onlyflyingmachine.com, Ali sent me this thing last week, which is a really cool, you know how the GoPro cameras has backpacks, a video back or the video screen backpack and a battery backpack. So Ali was thinking, and good thinking right there, why not a video downlink backpack? Because we all know downlinking video from the Wi-Fi is useless for live feed. There's too much delay. However, this thing here gives you 5.8, and it pops right into the back of this. There you go. It's plugged in, it's powered up, and it's ready to go. Now, since this antenna can really easily be hidden by something in the aircraft, and obviously if we put it on the gimbal right now, it wouldn't work. But if it can be hidden by the aircraft and your goggles, this is a bit problematic. It would be great if you're shooting video, because you're only going to be maybe 100 yards away. But if you're planning to go a mile and a half out, this particular positioning is not going to work. And to work with a gimbal, I'm probably going to unsolder this, and I'm going to lay it down so that it comes out right here, sticks out on the side instead, so that it's going to work with the gimbal. That way I won't have to hook anything into the camera to get to the video, and I don't have to have a separate video device on the thing for just shooting video. I can just fly line of sight and then look at the video from here to frame the shot and push in, do my shot, and then fly line of sight to come down and land it again. And when you're flying in the city, flying line of sight is really a smart thing, because when you look at the front door of a house and you're like slowly backing out, somebody like me typically will find the only electrical cable in the neighborhood, and I'll back right into it. I'll back into a tree or back into a phone pole or something like that. Flying line of sight means I can see it with my eyes, and I can look at the screen, I can back out, and I can look up and go, all right, it's time to stop before I crash into something. So I think Ali came up with a really neat concept. Personally, I think he needs to have an option to bring the antenna out on the other side. So before I wrap it, there's one more thing I want to mention here. Take this battery out, it's a little easier to do like that, and here we go. Two more things I should mention. The first is, for some people, this gimbal seems to swing a little too much. If that is the case, you might want to go grab a box of earplugs, noodle them up really tightly, and stuff them into each of the rubber dampers here. When they expand, they're just going to stop some of the swinging. So that might help you really much. The other thing is, this is a great gimbal, and the results I've seen online from it and my experience with it has been really good video. I'm not going to actually upload a specific flight video with this one, because so many people have made great videos. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to put a bunch of links at the end of this video, and also again on my post. I have no doubts about the quality of this gimbal, and I don't think I can do a flight video that's better than other people's. Like I said, earplugs into here. My problem with this gimbal is you have to take it apart up here in order to get the memory card out or to plug in the camera. Now if you charge the battery separately, I guess that doesn't matter, but you still have to get the memory card out. So the answer a lot of people have been doing is mount the camera upside down, and you can rotate the recording in the GoPro. That's going to bring the lens over here, and it's gonna put the memory card slot right behind this big hole. You're gonna have to take a metal file and increase the size of that hole a little bit, just so that the memory card can come in and out. The USB cable connects easily through that hole, so you could just connect the USB cable to your laptop and download your data that way. And James, from what I understand on James, he is increasing this hole, so future models are going to have the bigger hole. I believe that's the way I understand it. Honestly, my biggest reservation with this particular gimbal is the access to this, and I believe James is addressing that. So I think I have no, and honestly, I would have no, if you need one of these gimbals right away, go get yourself a metal file. It's going to take you 30 seconds to increase this hole a little bit, and you'll be able to take the memory card out this way. And I think that about covers it. I showed you the cool new thing from Ali, and oh, like I said before, this thing does come with a USB video out, but here's the problem. I can't plug it in and have the camera perfectly balanced, because to plug it in here, I have to move the camera down, and now it becomes bottom heavy, and when it's bottom heavy, it doesn't behave as nicely. So you have to sacrifice that. You have to unscrew it over here. And maybe one thing that could be very helpful would be adding to the kit a couple of finger screws, or just go buy a couple of finger screws and you can unscrew this in a matter of 2-3 seconds. That might be the easiest way. That said, for a $175 suggested retail price, you can't go wrong with this gimbal. It's just a really solid, well-made, well-functioning gimbal. I have flown $300 gimbals that was nothing better than this, so I think it's highly recommended. And that's all I have to say about it for now. The next thing I'm working on is taking a look at putting this gimbal on the new Walkera QR 350, I think it's called, with the 2 antennas that I like. And we're gonna take this gimbal for a test flight with that one. Now that I've shown you how to put it on a Phantom, it's time to try it on something else, because this gimbal will fly on anything about 300 plus size.